Well, we just want to have a quick look there, Archie. It's a lovely sight. Watching all the different animals. There's some gazelle, there's zebra, and a lovely elephant. But we are still going to be going in search of this hyena, and the elephants are leading us in that exact direction. So we're going to follow their lead and move over that way. And another animal that I do want to see is a baboon, and we've heard them off in the distance, so I think as we head down towards the river we're going to spot some baboons, and maybe we can spend some time with them. So let's get started and let's move off down there, because that's quite exciting. I'd love to see the baboons. And there is some warthog run across the road with that antenna up of his at the back, with his tail and the little pom-pom on the end. So while I reposition and try and go down to the river, and we'll see if we can find the hyena and the baboons, let's head over to Taylor and see what special animals she's been able to find.
We're looking, but I feel as though our luck is going to change. Just in a little bit though. We've got a bit of driving to do still. I took a road which I thought I'd never driven before. Turns out I have driven it, just from the opposite way. Now I know both ways. It's amazing how I thought, oh, this is brand new, I've never seen it before, when in fact I do know it quite well. Now, there were some, I've just got to try and figure out where they are now. Down in that vicinity there were lots and lots of cars, so we're heading there. So I wonder if you remember what I was talking about this morning about that pride of lions, how I thought that they would have continued going south. However, something could have popped up again from behind and, you know, encourage them to turn around. I wonder if that didn't happen, because from where we were, from where they were, by the amount of cars, it's either going to be a black rhino or it's a lion sighting. It's one of the two. And they've then gone west. So it's a possibility. It wasn't actually too far away from where we'd seen them, but obviously the grass is very tall, lots of shrubs. From where we were, we had no chance, and some clever cat decided to go up one of these sneaky side roads, and hopefully they're going to lead us to the lions. Should be quite nice. Sometimes it is nice. The other guides just present us with gifts by all gathering at the sightings, because at least we can spot them from a mile away as well. Otherwise, sometimes it can be a little bit on the tricky side. Manu, can you see those cars again? Lost them. But I think it was still a bit further down. I think we've come quite a way around. Manu and I chose, like I said, the scenic route. Maybe over this rise I'll start to see the cars again. Oh no, it's one of those sneaky, bumpy roads. Yay! Just keeping my eyes open very quickly. Who's singing like that? I think it's this bird here. Manu, can you get that bird over there that's flying away? Is that a black cuckoo that's just landed in that shrub? Did you see that? Please take as many screenshots as you can of this bird. I don't know if I'm going crazy, if I'm seeing correctly, but that was definitely a cuckoo, and it was completely dark. I just saw like the reddish tinge of that rusty color that they have on their wings. I just very quickly want to find cuckoos in my big bird book, which I've brought back with me, seeing as though the weather's better. Hey now, and Brent has been looking for a black cuckoo, I think it was. 232. Imagine that. Sorry, Manu. That just caught me right out of... It caught me completely off guard, and then I was a bit flabbergasted. I didn't know how to react to that. I wish it would come out. I really think that it was. I think that was a black cuckoo, everybody, that we saw. It's still fluttering around there. It's difficult to see. Maybe if you take a screenshot and you can zoom in more, you can have a look. Let's just keep an eye on it for the moment. It was very dark in color. It didn't have any of the white, and I don't know if the juveniles... Let's see. This will be the first. I don't think we've seen a black cuckoo on Safari Live. I've never seen one that's for sure. And they definitely do occur in this area. Has anybody confirmed that it's a black cuckoo, Ryan? Anyone on Twitter? I'm pretty sure that it is. It is definitely. It's the size of a cuckoo. The beak is similar. Like I said, I just saw some rusty red sort of patches on its wings, and that's exactly what is on a black cuckoo. I'm still going to take the camera off it in case it jumps up again and reveals itself a little bit better. If any of you did get a screenshot and are able to see that, I think it's going to jump again. So you can see it a bit clearly now. You can see it's very dark. There's very little white on it. And then just towards the wings, down towards the tips of the wings, you start to see a little bit of that color that I was telling you about. But it is so far away now. Come on, bird, do us a favor and please fly out here. Brent is going to be envious. The only other thing it could be is maybe a red-winged starling, but it looked too big to be a red-winged starling. And to be honest, I haven't seen any red-winged starlings out here. They're around camp, up on the top of the escarpment. I really hope it's a black cuckoo. It was massive. I mean, it was definitely longer than a ruler. I'm pretty sure cuckoos maybe 40 or 50 centimeters in length. Let me just see what a starling is, the red-winged starling, just so that I get an idea. Manu, you watching it, hey? Manu's got his eyes on the bird. How cool would that be? It will be another new one for me. I've been lucky. I'm just now can't even concentrate. Here we go. Starling, red-winged. Go a bit further down. Goodness, there's so many species of starlings. 610. They're also about 30 centimeters. Now I don't know. Did it move away? I don't know now. Okay. Well, I might have to go back and watch this footage a little bit later. Lynn, you've said that it sure looks like the picture. I'll show you in my book. Let me show you what it actually looks like. 232. Just gotta go back to that page. Have a look here. We'll see if it bounces around a little bit more. I'll keep watching. Oh no, I don't know. But there's the black cuckoo. That's what I was telling you about. So there's the red on the wings. And they do occur around here. And they like grassland areas. You know, with a red-winged starling, that's what I was saying. This to me, it doesn't seem like red-winged starling habitat. They're normally always up around humans in the same sort of area. They always nest in the infrastructure and the roofs all the time. They can be a big pest to people in lodges. And you can hear another little bird chirping. And then that is just this one down on the ground. It's the yellow-throated longclaw. Let's just see if I can see it moving. I wish I could drive up to that thicket. I really wish this was an off-roading area, because I totally would head in there. Okay, well, it's a mystery at the moment. Thank you very much, yellow-throated longclaw, for singing your beautiful song. It's very kind, and I know that you want to be the star of the show, but if we can get a new one on screen, I'm so sorry, little birdie. You're going to have to take a back seat this time round. That's a male. You see he's got a very dark band around his throat. The females is a lot more slender than that, and his colours are also just a lot more vibrant too. I wonder if we come and check back in this area, if we'll see this cuckoo again. They typically do hang around. I'm not sure how territorial they are. I'm sure there's some element to it. Okay, very nice though. Oh, I'm going to have to come back here. Definitely. Anna Marie, wondering if I can play the black cuckoo's call. I don't know. Let me see if I have it on my bird app. I was looking in my book. This is a Southern Africa bird app, so I might not have it. Let me find C for cuckoo. Oh, I do have the black cuckoo. Okay. interesting sound, eh? Won't be getting that confused with a white-browed cuckoo or a Burchell's cuckoo. Very, very different. I didn't realize I even had this on my phone. Because they've unusual. You don't really see them. Very, very nice. I think what we saw was a black cuckoo, and I think Brent is going to be very jealous, but we will confirm it at some point. If any of you manage to just get a glimpse of it, you're all much better and more technologically advanced than I could ever be. Please send through those screenshots, tag me in it, hashtag Safari Live, and hopefully we'll be able to tell from the picture. I think it was. We'll come back, we'll check this thicketed area and see if we have any more luck another time. I don't even know where those cars have gone now. Goodness gracious. Oh wait, I see roofs far down on the tree line. So I think that's where we're going to have to go. Oh, it's so bumpy. I must keep my eyes on the road today. Right, before I drive into another mud wallow and turn the car over, I'm going to keep focusing. Rolf has made it down to the Mara River, and I'm sure he's got a pod of hippo.
Yeah, thanks Taylor. Plenty of hippos is exactly what we have. And we've come down to the river in the area just to the east of the airstrip, looking for hyena and baboons, and just popping in down here at the river, and this is what we found. There are a lot of hippo in this spot at the moment, so it's a nice reason for us to come and sit here for a little while, see what the hippos are up to. Lots of tracks leading in and out, so it's obvious that the hippos have been out grazing over the evening. Yesterday I did come and have a look here. There wasn't any hippos here, so they've decided that this area of the river is going to be their chill out zone for the day. There's all sorts in there. There's bulls and females and youngsters, and so a real pod of hippos. Probably having grazed the entire evening on some lush grass. And I was chatting with some of the guys in camp, because they were saying that, as we hear the hippo calling there, they were saying that they could hear the zebra moving in between their tents, grazing, and they were quite astounded as to how loud a zebra sound when they just biting the grass off. And I said to them that if they think zebra are loud, wait until you have a hippo grazing next to your tent. They are extremely loud. And when you think that their mouth and the width of the mouth that they are using to bite off the grass is more than double the width of a zebra, then you can see what I mean by what the sound that comes from them. It's a very loud whack, whack, whack. I don't know how else to describe it. It looks like we've got a little bit of argy-bargy here between these two. And sometimes quite interesting to watch the behavior, if they are trying to establish dominance or if there's any family feuds going on. The hippo can fight quite regularly. So you can often see individuals with big gashes on them or scratches. People often think of they've been getting involved with lions or crocodiles. The most injuries that hippos get are generally from each other. You can see there, maybe he's just having a little pushy shovey. Not always that they're fighting, you know. It's the same as elephants and rhino. The youngsters can also be quite playful. So there can be a little bit of play going on, as you can see the gallery is watching. Now Scarlett, you're wondering if hippos travel to other dams, and if so, how far? Well, Scarlett, they can move quite big distances between little pans, and it's quite evident when we look at the hippos in Djuma or in the Sabi sands. And you can see there's Scuba Steve. Because we know of him as an individual, we see that he often moves between Chitwa and the Biffel's Hook dams, which is probably at least 10 kilometers between. Well, around that, maybe a bit less, but I know hippos that can easily move up to 20 kilometers in an evening. They look very big and fat, and that they're not really that able to move on land, but at their top speed, they can run faster than Usain Bolt, the fastest man on the planet. So they are quite slow in the animal world, but if we think of that in comparison to humans, they are quite fast indeed. Now, I did just want to show you something here, and if Archie can just get a nice focus on there. Obviously this is reduced, but this is what a hippo track looks like, and I just want to show you there what I often term it is like a flower, because you've got the 4 toes and a very distinctive track. It doesn't really look like any other track. The only one that you can maybe confuse it with is possibly a rhino, but remember that rhino's got almost like that hard hat on with the ear muffs on the side, and the hook-lipped being the black rhino, the square-lipped being the white rhino, and then the flower-shaped track of hippos. So, and those are all almost like fingers and looking like they've got nails on the end. Obviously elephant, very round track and unmistakable, but there's our sort of 3 big type of animal tracks that we get: the rhino, the hippo, the elephant, and the other ones would then be leading towards the animals kind of like giraffe and other things like that. But in the area that we are in at the moment, that's what I'm talking about. When we came in, we did see a lot of the hippo tracks, and it's obviously here is the result of what we thought we were coming in to see. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit away from the river. We'll follow it a little bit because I want to see if there's any baboons around. No. Sorry. It sounded like coming from... Okay, folks, apologies once more.
Oh my goodness, what a nightmare. The silly gremlins. I don't know why they're acting up today. Sorry about that. Rolf will be back shortly. I've lost all those cars. I don't know if what's maybe happened is that sighting has completely disappeared, that the lions or whatever it was, or rhino, have moved into the thicket. They're no longer out here watching anything anymore, and they've all sort of just left at the same time. Oh, I don't know what's actually gone on here. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that it was the lions that were here, and maybe they've just decided to move to the shade, and the shade was in one of these forested thickets, which is a pity. Oh well, maybe we'll get them this afternoon. That's alright. What are we going to do now though? I don't know where to go and look anymore. I really want to go and find that cuckoo. I mean, the chances of us seeing it again are probably not great. We have to go there a couple of times to get it. No, man, I can't believe it. Sneaky lions. They outsmarted me today. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I don't like being outsmarted by the cats. Dogs I don't mind so much. Not the cats. Oh, Manu, I'm so sorry. I'm getting us off of we're not driving on these roads anymore. I'm done. We're going to go and drive on the nice tarred... Well, there's no tarred roads. I kind of wish there was. Oh, it's been so long since I've been on a tarred road too. I know that sounds really silly and you're probably all laughing. You know, I don't even know what a menu looks like from a restaurant. It's been months. I don't know, I've forgotten what it feels like to be on tarred road. Even with Tamu, most of the roads here are just dirt roads. And what else have I forgotten? I don't know. I wonder if I could still put makeup on. Just thinking of all these things that I used to do in the city. Don't think I could. Richard, you're wondering why is it that black cuckoo is red? You see, is it because or is it shy, or I'm not sure. It's just not as common as the white-browed cuckoo apparently. I mean, cuckoos are fairly secretive creatures. I mean, most of the time when you have a sighting of one, we're quite lucky though, it's normally just a glimpse of them and then they dive into the shrubs. So I suppose yes, there's an element of shyness to the cuckoo. But then again, I've had other sightings where they've been quite confident and not worried about the cars and staying out. Again, so I think it goes down to each individual as well as species. So perhaps they are a little bit more shy. They do occur quite a bit in sort of this from the southeast of Kenya to the southwest of Kenya, just right along the bottom, and then in the Serengeti too. I think you'd obviously see them. Sorry, I'm just concentrating here because this road is just an absolute nightmare. It's so bumpy. You can sort of see as the car does this. So yeah. So I don't know. Can anybody confirm? Has Brent seen one yet on the show? I know he's been trying to put one on screen for a while, but I don't know if it's his first one, or if you can let us know. That would be great. Again, I can't. We're picking up the phone now. Hey Brent, remember that one time you were talking about black cuckoos? You'd be very upset with me if I bothered him while he was on holiday. But if we see it, we will harass him. If I've seen a black cuckoo before Brent, the whole world needs to tell him. Brent and I, we behave like siblings. He's always trying to outcompete me, and I'm always trying to outcompete Brent. Of course, it's just friendly fire though. It's healthy, but if anything, I think I probably try and compete the most with Brent, and Tristan. Actually, Tristan and I like to give Brent gears all the time. It's one of our favorite things to do. I can't wait to have a drive when I'm on with Brent and Tristan's on too, and then we'll try to set something up, and Tristan and I will just tease Brent for the whole game drive, the whole time, which could be quite funny if we do that. But we can't tell him though, so go and tell him we've made this plan now. We must keep this a secret between us. We'll see if we can get everybody to join in and see what his reaction is. It could be quite funny actually. Okay, we're just passing through the marsh again. I don't know where our jackal pups have gone. They've also moved now. Sneaky little ones. But that's okay. I think what I'm going to do though is I'm going to take one of these forest roads back in, and then we're going to go back to where we saw that cuckoo, if it is a cuckoo and not a starling. Imagine it's a red-winged starling this entire time. How embarrassing. If it's gonna happen, it's okay. It can happen to me. I don't mind being embarrassed. So we're gonna navigate on one of these forested roads and head back to where we think there is a black cuckoo. However, Rolf is sitting with an animal that should be in the water by now.
Thanks, Taylor. And I think Taylor might have had one of these this morning as well. A hippo out of water, grazing along. And I just wanted to stop here because I was just chatting about that difference between zebra grazing and hippo grazing. And just around the corner, then we find a hippo grazing. And I'd just like to show you what I mean by that. And I'm sure that because I've said that, this hippo is now going to disappear off into the brush. That's always our luck. But at least we're able to see it for a little while out of the water. Maybe he'll clear that bush at the back. It looks like he's on his way back down towards the river. And maybe we'll do the same. Because I have spotted some giraffe on the other side of the river. And so we might go and have a look for them. Now, Sean, you're wondering when hippos sleep And that was a question that I was attempting to answer earlier, but we had a little bit of a problem with the gremlins. So, Sean, when hippos sleep is generally when they're in the water, but remember that they do need to hold their breath if they go under the water. So it can be very patchy sleep. At other times they will find a little bit of a shallow area where they can be still in the water but with their head above the water, because they do need to breathe, and so that is when they will sleep a bit deeper in the shallower water. But as with all animals in the bush, it is a little bit random, the sleep, because they're always worried about survival and they're always worried about predators. In the water is obviously a safer place for hippos, but they do have territorial problems sometimes, and so there's always difference in their sleep patterns. But generally at night and generally in shallow water is the time when hippos sleep the most. They don't sleep when they get out to come to graze. That is particularly just for grazing, but every now and then they can also go and lie in a puddle, especially if there's a little puddle within the bushes and in the shade, and then they can lie in those puddles and sleep out of the water, but with a little bit of water around them as well, keeping them cool. So it can happen like that, but generally it would be within the confines of the river or the dam. Now, Ashlyn, you're wondering if hippos breed year-round. Yes, they do. There's no real set time for hippos to breed, so you can have them having their babies randomly throughout the year. Now, I just wanted to stop here because we do have a lovely scene on the river. There's a number of hippo in the river, and on the other side we've also got some zebra. But there, as Archie goes in, you can see these animals once more in the river. Lovely to see the hippos. I'm sure we're going to hear in a minute that other one bashing through the vegetation and making its way down to the water. But a lovely scene here. The zebra all congregating on the other side. And every now and then you'll be able to hear the hippos blowing out their air and re-inhaling for the next breath and going under the water. And there's a number of zebra enjoying the morning sun as well. So I haven't been able to find any baboons yet. We saw one hyena who quickly made its way into the thickets, so we didn't get to put him online. Now, Lorne, you're wondering how long hippos can actually stay out of the water. It all depends on the heat of the day and if they have a place to find a cool area, because the reason they stay in the water is merely for temperature regulation. So because they're not able to keep themselves very cool, especially in the heat of the day, that's when they stay in the water. But if it was a cool day and a rainy day, they could stay out of the water all day and all night. It just depends on the conditions. So the potential is there for them to stay out, but with that thermoregulation issue that they have, generally the hot African afternoons and midday drives them or keeps them in the water during that hot part of the day. So that is generally surrounding the temperature, and the sun is what keeps them in the water. Now, LJK, you're wondering about the hippo's tail and the hair on a hippo's tail. Would it be impeded or taken out of use on its through evolution? Well, I would say yes, because they're not having to use hair on their tail, particularly because they're spending so much time in the water. They're not particularly concerned with keeping flies away from their backside, which is generally what the tails do on the African mammals. It's protecting their back end and stopping parasites from, or attempting to stop parasites from entering or getting around the anus. So with hippos being in the water, it's the only purpose really that they have their tail at present, what I can see, is actually to spread their dung. And the males, they use the spreading of dung to mark their territory, both in the water and out of the water. What they do in the water is obviously just like a display, how vigorously you can spread your dung. That's in display to another male. And when they go out of the water, they literally spray their dung over bushes next to a path. They spray it over a bush or any kind of small landmark, and that in turn then leaves their mark as a territorial male. So I think that they have pretty much lost the use of hair on the tail, and that would show up there. Now I just wanted to have a look at these topi here. You can very often see them shaking their head as they walk along, and also you very often find them when they are resting, they put their heads and especially their nostrils in the grass in an attempt to close off access as much as they can from the fly species, which in this particular family of antelope, and it includes the blesbok and the hartebeest and the topi, there is a species of fly that enters into the nasal passage and lays its eggs inside there. And what happens eventually is that the larvae hatch, and then they have maggots inside the nasal cavity, and eventually they will live there until they metamorphosize into a fly and come out the nose. But you can just imagine the irritation and the absolute madness that these animals must go through while these maggots are within their nasal cavity. So you very often find them sneezing and snorting and full of mucus, and that's their body's attempt to try and shake off these worms in their nasal cavity. But you also have the animal attempting to block the flies from going in their nose by putting it in the grass. Now if we see that again, where they are lying with their nose fully protected by the grass, I will stop and I'll show you, but you can very often see them also shaking their head and bobbing it up and down. It must be, I cannot imagine the pain and the madness that these animals go through with having maggots living basically very close to the brain. So it must feel like they've got worms in their brain. It must be an absolutely terrible experience, but luckily we don't have to go through that. I feel for the topi, and I feel for this entire family of antelope, because that fly in your nose, that must be terrible, absolutely terrible. But yeah, that's the ways of nature, and they use this particular family, I believe, because of the particular shape and size of their nasal cavity. That's why you wouldn't find it in other animals in particular. And I believe it is the bot fly that is the culprit that lays its eggs within this family of antelope's nasal passages. In the distance there we do have one of the animals that was requested earlier. So I know it's quite far off, but I'll see if Archie can see that long-necked animal in front. I can't remember who it was, but just off to the left there, Archie, a little bit to your left. There we go. There's a couple of giraffe making their way through the brush, feeding as they go. You can already start to see the heat haze rising. It is warming up nicely. And there's one of our special interests today, somebody wanting to see a giraffe. And very interesting to see, once we get a bit closer, you'll see that giraffe all have black tongues. And that's the melanin within the skin. And it has come as a result of evolution, with giraffes spending many hours of every day with their tongues out in the hot African sun. So just imagine if that tongue was pink or without pigment, it would land up very sunburnt. So as a result of that, they have evolved to have a lot of melanin in the tongue. Ooh! And just look up top there, there's an elephant also walking through. So lots of melanin in the tongue, and that stops them from getting too sunburnt. That would be another agonizing thing to have. And we've got the flies in the nasal cavity of Topi, but just imagine giraffe with extremely sunburnt tongues. It would put another angle on the word sunburnt. Now, Tracer, in time, you're wondering what is the purpose of the horns on a on a giraffe. Well, firstly, Tracer, in time, just so that you know, it isn't actually horns. It's bony outgrowths of the skull, or extension of the skull. So we call them ossicles or ossicones, and the major purpose of them is actually that they use against each other, and that comes through with the males, with their dominance fights and display when they are necking and they're using their head like a club. But the youngsters also do have it, and the females as well. So I think in a way it is down to a little bit of protection, where they can use that to club an animal. But the biggest defense of giraffe is probably its kick. They can kick out the front legs, and they can also kick out the back. Very, very strong kick. Much stronger than that of a zebra, and zebra are well capable of breaking lions' jaws when they are trying to catch them. So a lion has to be very good at its technique, because that kick is going to come from both a giraffe and a zebra, and the more experienced lions chase up very close to the animal, wait for the kick to come, dodge to the side of it, and attack at that very moment. So it's very important for them to get it right, because if they don't, they could land up with a broken jaw, and that would lead to death. So a giraffe in particular could kick and break a lion's skull or jaw, whichever one it comes into contact with. It could also break other bones. Now, Archie's just pointed out to me, here we've got a lovely example of a Topi that has been putting his nose into the confines of the grass. Now, as I say that, he's back to ruminating, but maybe once he's finished that, he will put his head down again, because now he's exposed again to those flies, which are going to start laying their eggs up in the nasal cavity. It's very interesting to watch. And there he's obviously spent the morning grazing, and now I've got to spend the time ruminating once more. Now, Jean, you're wondering if Topi have horns or antlers. A very good question, that. In Africa, none of the animals have antlers. All of them have horns, and except I believe there is one kind of deer in the northern parts of Africa that could possibly have antlers. But generally, all of our plains game and our antelope have only got horns. And the difference being is that these horns are never shed. They are keratinous and bony outgrowth of the skull. So it starts with a little bony sort of base plate, and then the keratin growing on top of it. It's almost the same as your fingernails and hair. It's very much the same kind of substance or natural growth. And So they don't shed the horns like the deer would do with antelope and moose. They grow them yearly. Whereas if these horns were broken, they would then just grow the remainder of what they would have grown if it wasn't broken at all. So very different in structure and in the actual substance that they're made of. So no antelope have antlers here in Africa, except, as I say, for that one species in the north. Now, Scarlet, you're wondering how sharp the tips of the horns are. They are normally reasonably sharp. It all depends. Obviously, if they get broken, they can be quite flat, but all of the antelope that have horns are particularly sharp at the end. And the one that is probably the most useful or scary or sharp are probably those of the oryx or the gemsbok, because those are dead straight and they are literally like spears. And I do know that the Khoisan and the Bushmen, they used to make some of the best known natural bows out of oryx horns. They used to put two together, so join them in the middle, and then obviously the thinner parts going to the outside. And once that was made flexible, it would make an extremely useful longbow that they could then make arrows out of the quiver trees or the aloe dichotoma, and in that way they would be able to hunt animals. They also used to use euphorbia and toxins that they found from plants that they would put on the tip of the arrows, and so with that they would then shoot the animals and then follow it, because that poison attacks the brain. So they would follow that animal as quickly as they could, because eventually it would succumb to the poison, and it almost like a neurotoxin where it attacks the brain. But then they would immediately cut the head off of the animal, so to stop the toxin from moving from the brain. Depicted without heads, and it's as a result of this poison that they used from the different plants, but that attacked the brain, and so by cutting the head they stopped it from tainting the meat. And so we have all sorts of different topics leading from antelope's horns onto how Bushmen shoot and kill animals and feed on them. But that's the beauty of driving around in the bush. We can chat about so many different things. So thanks for all your questions and your comments. Please keep them coming. Now, Chitty Chat Meg, you're wondering if topies are related to goats. Well, they are in a similar line, and that is the reason why in the way that we name them, we say that they are all buck or bok, which is the Afrikaans word for goat. They're all in that ungulate grouping. So yes, in a distant form, they are related to goats. And you can see that they have a similar digestive system. They all chew the cud and they ruminate, with them having little dung pellets. And so they also have only 2 toes and they walk on the tip of them. Alright, so I am still going on search for the remainder of the animals that we said we were going to try and find, some hyena and baboon. And while I'm doing that, let's go over to Taylor and see what else amazing she's been able to find.
Trying to not get the dust in our eyes. Someone kept racing past now. Kicked up quite a bit of dust. No! Get out! Sorry. Oh, now I'm going to drive off of the road. Okay, I'll try to concentrate. I'll try to drive one eye. Goodness gracious, that was a lot of dust. We need the rain. We need all the rain that we can get. Now I've also got to drive very slowly because I've broken a shock in this car. On the correct terms are, but I don't think it's very good. But we're just going to try and get home very slowly and with as little bumps as possible this morning. And hopefully Shadrach, our genius mechanic, will be able to sort us out for this afternoon. Because I think he's going to have lots of work on his hands today. Pucker also broke this morning. I'm not quite sure what happened with Pucker, but Pucker's not around anymore. What have we got here? Lilac-breasted roller. Sitting perfectly. Isn't that the perfect perch? It's as if it was made for that lilac-breasted roller. And then those other things you can see in the background, they look like zebra up on the escarpment. There they are, striped horses. Beautiful. Aren't they lovely birds? They're not looking as colourful as what they normally do. Maybe this one's just having a bad feather day. Needs to do a bit of preening. It does, don't you think? It looks quite mottled in colour. It almost looks like the European rollers when they've travelled all the way from Europe down when we get them in South Africa. They always look like they've seriously been through the washing machine. Like they're a pair of jeans that's 10 years old and has lost its colour. But of course that's from them being exhausted and using all their valuable resources. But it's still a very pretty bird nonetheless. Look at the different colours you've got from the lilac on the breast. It even turns a bit red at some point, the turquoise blue, then a little bit darker blue on the rest of the body, and of course those white little specks here and there, that white supercilium. Beautiful birds. You're going to swoop down and catch an insect for us? It's always spectacular when they do that. And I suppose there needs to be some insects around for her to be able to catch anything. It looks like it's just resting up for now. Very nice. Well, let's carry on. Let's go very slowly. I'm just waiting to hear another clunk. I thought it was a gunshot. It was so loud. Manu and I panicked quite a bit. Hello, Sooty Chats. Lots of Sooty Chats and things not running around here, but hopping around here. It was crazy. We just went through a little dip, and as we went like that, it was terrible. I've got a big fright. But anyways, we realized what it was. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering what on earth do I do when I get back to camp? It depends on my mood. Most of the time I'm pretty active and I'll go out and do safari parkouring with Manu, and when Craig's here, Craig, and I used to take David along. Davy Gravy has gone back to Djuma. Whoever else is willing. When Elka was around and Megan's here, we would often go down and swim in the rock pools. So yeah, I do things like that, and sometimes I'll watch an episode of a series. If I try and watch a movie, it takes me about 4 or 5 days to get through one movie, which is boring because then I've forgotten what's happened and I have to go back and watch a little bit more. But that'll only be really on the miserable days, or if I'm really tired. Sometimes we have naps and things like that. But I probably won't have a nap. I think I'm going to have a very busy day today. I would love to go safari parkouring straight after breakfast, but I know I've got some meetings to attend, so we will see. But there definitely needs to be some safari parkour involved. I've been very lazy lately. I've been hula hooping and skipping, but it's not as invigorating as going out on a safari parkour, because the amount of times you almost slip and you think that you're going to fall to your death, it really gets the adrenaline pumping through your veins. You see, we can't do our proper safari parkour anymore because my safari parkour buddy is injured. He hurt his ankle leaping from I don't know how high off of a waterfall, and we were trying to find a way to climb down, and Manu then went, "I'll go and do it, I'll be the test dummy," and he sat on the edge, and I think the drop must have been about 6 meters or so, so it was quite high up, and as he landed, I looked and I just went, that's an ankle injury right now, and then it was. So we don't know what happened. He was able to still walk, but he's swelled up pretty quickly, so I think he damaged either ligaments or tendons. Not that I'm a doctor, and it'll be fine, but he keeps going and doing these adventurous things, and I said, Manu, you have to let your leg heal. So I bet you're all telling Manu off. It's good. I'm going to show him all the tweets of you reprimanding him and telling him to rest up. So yeah, so once Manu's healed 100%, we might go for a walk safari parkour though, and then I'll just run up ahead. There's a warthog. We'll have a very quick look at the warthog and the giraffe. The warthog is probably going to run. Oh, there, the spring, not spring, there goes the shock again. I don't know if we're going to make it up this hill. Shady might have to come and meet us down here. So, as usual, life on the hill below the Olololo escarpment is always plentiful, filled with warthogs, like that one. Off you run. It's keeping its tail nice and straight. Doing a very good job. And stop and pose. It's a runway warthog. And then there are lots of giraffe watching the warthog as it runs. A couple of zebra too. And they are the heads of the giraffe. There's a big herd that live around here. They come into camp. They live down in the valleys. It's quite beautiful. I wonder what they're watching now, because now they're not watching the warthog. They all look like they're looking at something else. Ooh. Brittany, you're wondering what is the most terrifying animal sound to hear as we watch this kestrel catch something? Did I get it? Woo! What have we got? Looks like one of the kestrels. I don't know how to see. No, it didn't catch anything. I think it was trying. The most terrifying sound has to be that of a tree hyrax. That is a horrible sound to hear in the middle of the night. It sounds like an animal is being killed. It's a terrifying scream. Perhaps you can type it in on YouTube or something along those lines. Just type in tree hyrax call. I don't have the call on my phone, unfortunately, but you'd be able to see. Oh, that is brilliant, Manu. That's like the equivalent of walking past, a low wall and doing the elevator. But the giraffe are doing it very well today. I would, of course, demonstrate for you, but I don't know if I'm going to. Maybe another time. But that's what that reminded me of. Very nice. Okay, let's start carrying up on the hill. Carrying up on the hill. I might actually need to take a nap. It sounds like it. I didn't sleep much last night. I was responding to emails at 2:30 this morning. It was a great time. The internet was very quick. No one was on it. I feel like that's the optimal time. And I don't get frustrated with everything taking so long to send. I have zero tolerance for technology. It's it's the thing that drives me crazy. Okay. Well, we're going to keep trying to get up this hill, and hopefully we're going to make it. We're going to go nice and slow and steady. Let's go back across to Ralph, and hopefully he's also not having any more mechanical problems.
Yes, thanks, Taylor. And I thought we'd just stop here because we've got a lovely silhouette of these 4 giraffe just on the top of the embankment here. So a lovely picture of them looking out. And you can see, I would say that of all the animals, the giraffe has got the most efficient fly swatter in that tail of theirs. And I heard that Taylor was talking about the most terrifying sound in the bush. Well, for me, I would say, just thinking that it's maybe one of the most cutest animals in the bush, but the noise that he makes is quite terrifying, especially if you hear it for the first time. And that is of the thick-tailed bush baby. And the reason we call them bush babies is because it sounds like, when they call, that of a screaming or a crying baby. And they go, ah, 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 ah. And if you hear that for the first time, it can seem quite terrifying. Now that we know what it is, we know what cute little animal is coming from, we don't even bat an eyelid. But for the first time visitors, when you hear that, it'll be quite scary in the middle of the night. As these giraffe are peacefully chewing their cud, chasing flies with their tail. As the heat starts to increase with the sun getting nice and high, I'm sure they're going to move down a little bit into the drainage line and maybe seek some shelter in that of shade of the nice big trees down there. But for the time being, there is still a little bit of a breeze, and these giraffe are quite happy moving around in the sun. Now, I think we are just going to start up and move on a little bit. We are in the area of the Kichwa Watembo Lodge, and that is obviously what the lion males have been called, those three males, and the one without the end of his tail, the pom-pom, missing, and it's two with very dark manes and one with a little bit of a lighter mane. They are called the Chitwa Watembo males, and I was asking Archie what that means, and he said quite literally elephant. So that lodge is called, Archie telling me, Elephant's Head. So that means the Elephant's Head Lodge and the Elephant's Head male lions. So if you're wondering what Chitwa Watembo means, now you know. Elephant's Head. And we're in the area of that lodge, so you might see it as we drive up around the corner here, that you know what the buildings are. You see some zebra up here in front, and off in the distance there the lodge. Now I haven't driven in this area, so I just wanted to come and see what new little roads we could drive down. Each one I keep taking leads to a dead end. It's probably where the lodge have been taking their guests for drink stops or sundowners, and so that's the reason why I'm finding a lot of dead ends. But now I know that there are dead ends. Now Scarlett, you're wondering what has been my most favorite or my favorite sighting so far in the Mara. I think it probably, when we did that full day out and we came across those lions that were stalking, we thought a topi, but turned out to be that of a family of warthogs, and ultimately they hunted one of the younger warthogs, and then that elephant charged in and tried to get rid of them, and that male took the spoils from the females, and he went under a bush and flattened that warthog within 5 minutes. It was almost like he swallowed it as quick as he could, and off he went back up to the females hoping for some more, but unlucky for him, they hadn't been able to catch anything. So they then went back to lying up under a tree, the female still hungry and still ready to hunt, and the male having had a nice little meal, but he had to evade the attention of a bull elephant who was not happy with them having hunted in his general vicinity. So that for me, the most interesting and action-packed sighting so far. But lovely to see the black rhino here, especially out grazing, which is something totally new for me. I've never seen black rhino grazing, and so all these new things that I've seen. The blue-eyed hyena has to be up there with the best that I've seen so far. Never seen that before. Also, having seen the olive baboons, that's a new experience for me because I've never seen that species. Now I've just spotted a little road here that we haven't been down before, so I'm going to just make our way towards the river here. And folks, we are nearing the end of this morning's game drive, but it's been a lovely morning so far. Even though we've had our technical and mechanical issues, it's all's well that ends well, I always say. As in front of us we are watching an aeroplane come into land. He's turning into the wind as we find ourselves a lovely new little road to go down and explore. What is going to be around the next corner? This looks like a good area for leopard. And that aeroplane's starting to slowly come in there. And we're heading down. I'm sure this might be another dead end, but we'll see where it goes. Looks like it might be looping around. And yes, as that aeroplane comes into land, it's lovely to watch new guests coming in to experience the Mara for the first time. And a lovely scene here. We can just hear there's still the afternoon birds that are calling, well, starting to go into the afternoon. But thanks again to Taylor, who